If you live in a refugee accommodation center, you already know that sticking to the hygiene and social distancing measures could be basically impossible. How can you keep a distance of 1.5 meters in a crowded space like that? Or how can you really stick to hygiene standards if you are sharing a bathroom with about 100 other individuals, regardless of how regularly the facility, the bathrooms, and the rest of it is being cleaned? So people who have been living in refugee accommodation centers have been living in this fear of contagion. And it goes without saying that a contagion will not be confined into the walls of a accommodation facility, right? This is how pandemics work. On top of that, those who have been living in these facilities had to worry about the fact that what if one person is infected in my refugee camp, because that can mean that the whole facility has to go into quarantine. That's another fear that people who are living in these shared spaces have to deal with. If you find yourself in such a situation, you probably already see these posts on our website or our Facebook. The very first step always is to talk to your facility management. There's always a possibility of changing things and making the space safer for everyone. That should be the first step. But the second step is that contacting your refugee council, your local refugee council. You can check the link in the comment section to find your own local refugee council. So seek advice from them and see what they recommend. And the third step, if the refugee council suggests so, could be seeking legal help, meaning finding a lawyer. Your lawyer can contact the camp management and try to convince them that they need to make meaningful change to protect people inside the facility. But at the end, in a final step, you can go to court with your lawyer and kind of protest the situation you have to live in. There has been cases like this, and they actually got a favorable ruling from the court, meaning the court of law accepted that the situation is not acceptable and it put individuals at risk. Unfortunately, despite the fact that the conditions in many of these camps are goes against the regulations and laws announced by the federal government in order to curb the pandemic, the court ruling I'm talking about is not a general court ruling, unfortunately, meaning that you personally have to go to court if you are to change your condition. If, for instance, one person from your accommodation center goes to court, that will not suffice for you. That will, best case scenario, change the situation of that one person. So unfortunately, there's no general ruling as of yet. But the good news is that at the end of April in Chemnitz, one asylum seeker went to court. He was a resident of an initial reception facility. And he protested the fact that he had to live in one room with 4 other people who were not related to him, not his family members. And he had to share a bathroom with 100 other individuals. And the court, of course, ruled that he's right. So now the camp management have to find another safer accommodation for him. This, if I'm not being mistaken, is the 5th favorable court ruling in Saxony. If you have the same situations in your facility and decide to go to court, remember that there's a chance the legal fees are going to be taken over. This is something called Prozesskostenhilfe, legal aid, and everyone in Germany who has to go to court but cannot cover the costs because they don't earn enough are entitled to these legal aid. If you're actually entitled, your lawyer can apply for this Prozesskostenhilfe. You are, of course, free to choose your lawyer. Take a look at the links in the comment section. There's a link to Pro Asyl website, and there's also another link to Legal Advisory Conference. This is where you can find lawyers specialized in refugee issues in particular and immigration. Have a nice day and see you later.